What's up, Broncos country? In this edition of Bronco Talk, we are talking about a Broncos Week 5 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. So let's talk Broncos. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I know. Let's talk Broncos. Hello and welcome into another edition of Bronco Talk, where we talk Denver Broncos football. And in this post-game edition, we are covering the Week 5 win over the Las Vegas Raiders. And first and foremost, doesn't it feel good? Losing 8 straight, not beating the Raiders since before COVID, December of 2019. And just going forward, we can operate without that monkey on our back. I spoke to how Sean Payton he's probably right now getting questions in the post-game press conference about the snapping of the streak, and he probably doesn't care because there's plenty to speak on of what happened before Sean Payton was the head coach of the Broncos. He cares about the here, he cares about the now, but it's great for Broncos country, the fan base, and everybody involved with the franchise to just know that we've beaten the Chiefs, we've beaten the Raiders, and we can just move forward and hopefully beat the Chargers next week. But we're focused on the post game. We're focused on the victory at hand, and we'll break down the comparison of what we thought this game was going to turn out to be versus what it really did. And we'll also see how the Broncos can get better throughout this episode. The first thing I want to talk about is the passing attack versus the rushing attack. I did expect, with the decent weather, with Sean Payton's offense starting to get the wheels turning, and with the turmoil, the kind of bad culture that the Raiders have going on right now, that the passing attack was going to exploit some mismatches, that we were going to be able to throw for close to 250 yards, that was also going to open up holes in the running game. But we kind of got hit in the mouth in the first quarter. It wasn't feeling too good seeing Brock Bowers jump ball PJ Locke and just kind of big boy him and run down the sideline and score a touchdown. It really felt like, oh no, this I hope isn't going to be bad, but it feels bad. And then, of course, all the momentum shift when Pat Surtain said, let me have that, and ran it back 101 yards. And the announcer spoke on this countless times, how the momentum did shift within the stadium and how it was a lot like a college-like atmosphere where you could feel the whole momentum shift. And that spoke very highly about the defense, because the defense was getting kind of, the Vance Joseph was calling decent play calls, but the offense of the Raiders were keeping us guessing. The Vance Joseph would bring the rush and they'd hit us with the screen pass and kind of kept us off balance until Patrick Surtain took that pick six back. And then the crowd got into it, and that's what I mean when I'm saying the defense. It kind of elevated the defense, because the stadium was rocking after that. It inspired us to get loud. So the Patrick Surtain kind of took it into his own hands. And after that, I mean, a garbage time touchdown. I mean, I know it was middle of the fourth quarter, and there was technically a chance, especially if the Raiders got that onside kick and went down and got another touchdown and 2-point conversion. It would have been a one-score game. So sure, there was a chance that the Raiders could have pulled in within a score, or even got very close to forcing overtime, or who knows what that looks like. But I don't want to think about that, because we've got a victory on our hands against the Las Vegas Raiders, and we haven't been able to say that for almost 5 years. So that feels very good over here at Bronco Talk. And I just want to delve a little bit deeper into the game plan. What I said the keys to the game were the run game and stopping the run, and that's really where we kind of got off balance. We weren't able to stop the run. Obviously, Brock Bowers was very instrumental in their hot start over there on the other sideline, with reeling in that pass and going down the sideline and scoring a touchdown. But a lot of it also was kind of keeping us guessing, kind of getting us east to west, kind of just throwing a little bit of being unpredictable, throwing a little bit of screen pass here and there. And Gardner Minshew, before that interception, I believe was either 9 of 10 or 9 of 9. I think that first incompletion was the interception. So they kind of had us on skates. They kind of had us on our heels. We didn't know which direction to go. So their run game was working. And then because we were kind of, spinning our wheels and kind of out of sorts on offense, we didn't have our run game going. And when we did retake the momentum, you did see our offensive attack kind of flourish into what could have been if that first drive for the Las Vegas Raiders didn't turn out to be what it was, and then we didn't answer with a 3-and-out. It was pretty much a balanced attack once we got our bearings about us. Javonte Williams, I said in the pregame, I wanted to see him get 20 plus carries, and then I wanted to see Jaleel get his 6 to 10 carries, depending on how the game was going to go. And then, of course, Bo Nix can add that element to his game. He's a pocket passer. He wants to drive the ball downfield, but sometimes he's his own check down. Sometimes you saw it in the coverage of the game. The announcer, Daryl Johnston, I believe, was talking about how his check down was out in the flat on the left side and he's rolling out right. And then he had to maneuver and find a hole and get upfield. But even if that's not the case, Bo Nix has shown the ability to run some designed runs, some bootlegs, and get the first down. So that was to be expected, but we were only able to get Javonte, 13 carries. And he was very productive, I feel, in those 13 carries. And obviously, he's a pass catcher out of the backfield as well. He does that very well, and he was able to lead the team with 5 receptions for 50 yards. So both on the running game and in the passing game, Javonte showed to be a weapon for the Broncos, and I think that continues going forward. I did say I think that he was going to get a 100-yard game and a score, and if Sean Payton doesn't call the old okey doke reach over the goal line, Drew Brees, now Bo Nix call where they just kind of, I mean, I agree with the announced team. If you watch the game, they mentioned that they didn't really like that call, whether it's Drew Brees, whether it's Taysom Hill, whether it's whomever, if it's Bo Nix or Jarrett Stidham or whoever might quarterback the Broncos for the next 10 years as Sean Payton is the head coach, or however long he decides to be a head coach in Denver, or ownership decides. But either way, Javonte probably doesn't get the 100-yard game either way. But I did think that he was in line for a goal line carry to punch it in for 6. It would have been nice to see Javonte in the last 2 games not only stop being held back at 1.8 yards per carry, but, opening up some holes for him and getting his average yards per carry up, but also to see him punch it into the end zone. That didn't come to fruition. It was neither here nor there because the Broncos ended up winning very definitively, and it was nice to see not only Bo Nix throw his second touchdown pass, but his third touchdown pass too. And his second one was pretty awesome to see Jaleel kind of tightrope the sideline and jump towards the pylon and get in. Even after some comments were made on the telecast about, did he make it? Was his knee down before he reached the pylon? So on and so forth. The call on the field stood, and it was nice to see that second pass touchdown. But that one to Josh Reynolds, that's going to be a staple, I think. Regardless of who is the receiving core next year and the following years, throwing that corner route, throwing the out route, that's going to be Bo Nix's game. He might not beat you with 70 yards downfield, which he could have if Troy Franklin could reel in a pass, a deep pass. That was beautiful. But in regular concepts, his go-to plays are going to be those from 10 to 12 yard out of the goal line within the red zone. He's going to be able to throw those corner routes. I think he has the accuracy, and his arm strength won't be called into question. Now, I personally don't believe. I think the arm strength argument is pretty much dead. He's got a pretty strong arm, but he also has to layer it in with anticipation because some of those guys can just huck it 70 yards without even thinking, and he's got to kind of muster it up a little bit, but he can get it there, so it's not really much of a question. That being said, that pass to Josh Reynolds, I think we're going to see whether Cortland Sutton's here long term, if Troy Franklin ends up working out with Denver and becomes a long-term staple in Denver. You'll see those corner routes, those out route touchdown passes. And of course, I love myself a good swing pass. That's why I thought the Jaleel touchdown was so awesome to see. So we got a rushing touchdown, we got a defensive score, and we got 2 Bo Nix passing touchdowns. So my bold predictions became came to fruition. They became reality. And although the rushing the rushing touchdown wasn't from Javonte Williams. I mean, I'm a homer. I'm biased. I want to see Javonte get his because he's my favorite player. Everybody loves Patrick Surtain, and I told plenty of people I wanted Patrick Surtain to be the guy when we were drafting. There was a lot of calls for Justin Fields and so on and so forth, but Patrick Surtain was my guy, and I'm glad to have him. And he is solid number 2, but something about the Terrell Davis, the Clinton Portis, who's going to be the next great running back in Denver. And it's been a while. We've had some Mike Andersons and some CJ Andersons, but nobody that's been here for a handful of years, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, that's really toted the rock. And I know the game's a lot different than it was back in the late 90s and early 2000s, but you still have the Dalvin Cooks in the league. You still have the Ezekiel Elliott's that went on for multiple years at their original place that they were drafted, and to have productive careers. I don't know if we'll ever see another Adrian Peterson type that, ran for a decade, and he ran for the Vikings, and he went to multiple different teams and was still able to be productive. But I think that you can draft a running back and have him be productive for 6 years. I do think that, and that's what I want to see Javonte become. I'm just a little biased. Of course, PS2 is right there, 1 and 1A for me. I'm a huge fan of Patrick Surtain, and it was awesome to see him take that back 100 yards for a touchdown, but it was also great to see him have a multi-interception game. I know the beginning of the season, the first game or two were really hard on him as far as defensively getting called for penalties. That's not something we've seen from Pat Surtain in the last couple of years when since he's been drafted. I don't remember Patrick Surtain struggling with holding penalties or pass interference penalties. So that he was kind of, you could just see in his body language and the way that he was kind of just had his demeanor the first couple of games. He's upset with himself, upset with the referees, upset with coverage. It didn't feel good. So for the Broncos to be good in coverage and also be able to get to the quarterback, and then obviously reaping the rewards, whether it's in the sack game or the turnover game, and seeing Patrick Surtain himself get 2 interceptions today was awesome. It was great to see Riley Moss get his first interception, and although we end up giving up 18 points today, it was a garbage time touchdown and garbage time 2-point conversion. So our average points per game is going to take a little bit of a hit there, I believe. But defensively, it felt from the second quarter on, we were pretty stout. We scored in the second, third, and fourth quarter, and that's something that is got to be a part of your formula if you're going to be a successful football team, scoring in 2 or 3 quarters, scoring on multiple possessions in a single quarter. For example, a touchdown and a field goal, get 10 points in the second quarter, getting 2 field goals in the third quarter, and just kind of pouring it on and getting to that 20-plus mark, which I did say was the number. If we were held to 20 points, we won today. Luckily, we didn't. Bo Nix was able to throw for 2 pass touchdowns, rush for 1, and obviously we were very fortunate to have a little bit of a leverage call, 15-yard penalty that allowed Will Lutz to hit a field goal from 44 yards out rather than the one that he missed from 59. So that looks good in the stat book. We're big fans of Will Lutz over here at Bronco Talk. Skeptical when we first got him. Very much a fan since, because he replaced Brandon McManus that was a long-standing Bronco, but he started to struggle here in Denver. So it was nice to see Will Lutz get a redemptive shot and even from closer. So 44-yard field goal, good from him, and 34 points put on the board. It was nice to see Denver just kind of, like I had mentioned in my pregame prediction. I said 24-6. It didn't turn out that way, but what I was more relying on, because I was a little bit intimidated that this offense, in my opinion, wasn't really clicking to the degree that I felt we could put 30 up there, even with the defensive score, which I had mentioned that was going to be a part of our 24 points. But I just didn't see us scoring 30 plus, but I didn't think that it was going to be a 1-score game, and it came to be a 2-score game, and it could have very well been a 3-score game, but we kind of called the dogs off, it seemed like. We were still rushing, we were still being aggressive, but it was a baby prevent defense. It wasn't prevent But we did back the dogs off. We called them off a little bit. And Aiden O'Connell, he just made the open man. He hit the open man. It wasn't much to write home about Aiden O'Connell. Although I think if you asked my opinion on the Las Vegas Raiders prior to the season, I believe that they were in an opposite position to the Denver Broncos because Aiden O'Connell did end the season with the Vegas Raiders last year, and I thought that it would be good for him to start the season and have Gardner Minshew there as like a another good quarterback, a decent quarterback that can be in the quarterback room and kind of help develop Aiden O'Connell into what he can mature into. Whereas I felt like Bo Nix, being a rookie, needed a veteran to start in front of him and kind of lean on his professional career and his professional opinion to kind of develop as a quarterback on the sideline. They replaced Gardner Minshew with O'Connell, and that's something that even though I originally said I wanted a veteran quarterback as the starter and then let Bo Nix develop behind him, I don't want to see the Broncos go flip-flop. And you won't see that happen. I don't think even if Bo has a bad game, if Bo has a game similar to Gardner Minshew did today when he got benched and they put Aiden O'Connell in, you're not going to see Sean Payton go back and forth. He's defended the kid way too much for me to believe that there's any sign of Bo getting benched. And he didn't do anything today to disrupt that. I think that he went out there and put up 200 plus yards in the passing game, threw 2 touchdowns and snuck one for a rushing touchdown. And he's continuing to develop. But just foreshadowing, if Bo were to have a less spectacular game, something that he just couldn't get the rhythm going for a game, Bo's the guy, and that's what I want to see personally. Once you pick a guy, unless he's benched for the season, this is the second out of 3 straight games where the Raiders flip-flop from Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, and it just leaves for room for error, lack of confidence, and once you pick a guy, unless he's done for the year, you just roll with him. He's going to have some ups, he's going to have some downs. Same thing with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, whomever you went with. And if we went with Jarrett Stidham or Zach Wilson, I believe that there would have been some ups and downs, and that's just what happens in the NFL. When you pick a starting quarterback, you got to roll the dice and roll with him. And unfortunately for the Vegas Raiders, but very fortunately for the Denver Broncos, Gardner Minshew, although had a couple of good early drives, couldn't get it rolling, threw a pick six, threw another interception, had no rhythm, and was ready to be benched. And Antonio Pierce wasted no time to bench him, which just speaks to the dysfunction within the Las Vegas Raiders locker room. It's hard to know who to follow when you're benching quarterbacks and calling players out and just being very dysfunctional. It did have me feeling a little bit of a certain way, like, are the Raiders rallying behind Antonio Pierce? Because we were kind of getting to a slow start. The Raiders were looking pretty stout as far as keeping us guessing on defense. The offensive play calling the first 2 or 3 drives was pretty good when you look at it. Like I said, Minshew was 9 of 9 at one point. The rushing attack was looking good. As far as if you look back at Madison being a Viking, I've been a fan of Madison in the past. I don't want to say that too loud because he's currently a Las Vegas Raider, but he's nobody to sleep on. And Alexander Mattison was a good running back for the Vikings in a reserve role when Dalvin Cook went down. Madison has always produced. So that's why one of my keys to the game was stopping the run game. And we were able to, once the momentum shifted and the crowd got into the game and the defense was flying towards the ball and we were gang tackling like we know that we have. That's our identity thus far through the first 5 games is rallying to the ball and making defensive stands and getting turnovers. We're really doing well as an entire unit. But if you look at those first couple of drives, kind of felt like the Raiders were rallying behind, the players at least were rallying behind Antonio Pierce. Fortunately, it all came down to just one lowly interception returned for a touchdown by Patrick Surtain II. The highlight of the game, definitely seeing him running the opposite way and in that great looking uniform, the throwbacks, just seeing PS2 returning one to the house, and then it was pretty much all done, said and done from there. The game obviously wasn't over, but the Raiders weren't the same afterwards. So we're over here at Bronco Talk celebrating a Week 5 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders, and it feels so good to say that because it's been almost 5 years since we could. I hope you guys are celebrating the way that I'm celebrating, with a hoarse voice and just excitement exuding and radiating off of you. I know I am. I know you are. So I ask you, Broncos country, please like this video, comment, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue to stampede together all season long. And I'll see you next time on Bronco Talk.